Hello, I am going to show you today how to create a 3D Easter Bunny box. So what you're going to need is you're going to need a Cricut. Right now I have the Cricut Maker. And then you're going to need a sticky mat. I prefer the blue, but you could also use the green depending on what weight of cardstock that you are using. The heavier, I would suggest using the green. Then you are going to need a brayer, your cardstock paper, an unscented dryer sheet, a coffee filter, a scoring stylus, a cutting knife, a Ranger Embossed pen. The white is the clear, or you can use the black, but I prefer the clear for the light color paper. You're going to need some brushes. You can use a big fluffy brush for larger areas, but I would suggest also having a thinner pointed brush to get into details. Some glue and/or tape. A heat gun, and your embossing powder. We're going to move this to the side. So what you are first going to need to do is make sure you have a clean area workspace. Your Cricut is on and it is connected to Cricut Design. And then we're going to search for a 3D box template. You can use any one that you find that suits your needs best, but I would suggest having one that is simple, such as this, that has no text but bold lines, because we are going to be erasing this white background on the outside. And then you're going to save it to wherever you store your files that are easily accessible. And then you'll go to Cricut and you're going to create a new canvas. So on your left hand side in the gray menu, you're going to go to the bottom. It says upload. And then we are going to upload image. And then browse. And wherever you store your recently downloaded files. So from here, we make sure that your image is the one that you want. And we, at this point, want a simple, because there's only two colors, black and white. Then we are going to go down to the right and continue. And now from here, we're going to make sure that we have the manual setting of a select, because we want to keep the inside of these squares. So we want to make sure that everything outside is gone. and you can tell that it is gone by the black correction, the blue and white checkered. Now we are going to making this box as an open top, so we are going to zoom in, scroll down, and we actually don't need this, so we are going to, I find it easier to erase all of the inside of this box, and then go back over, click erase, and if it is still too small, keep zooming in, scroll down, and then we're just going to erase this box and the lines. Now, if there was any text in here, then you would also use your eraser tool to erase anything. And to make sure that everything is clear and all you have is the outline of your cut image, we're going to preview cut image. We're going to zoom out. And yes, there's nothing else around here that is going to be cut, just our main image. So then we are going to apply and continue if we are fine with that. Now later on, if you decide to put an image on here that you want it printed, then use the print and cut image. If you are going to be just doing the outline, then just do a cut image. I would like the print then cut image. We're going to change the name to 3D box, and then tags. You can put anything to help you search for a later date. So I'm going to put 3D box with open lid. And then and if you have any collections in your design space, you can add them in here. I'm going to upload. And then over here, under recent uploads, you make sure that your outline is green. And you have over here next to the cancel and add canvas buttons, a little icon matching the image that you are wanting to put into your canvas. If that is all, you can add to canvas. And here it is. And what I like to do before I start rearranging and resizing your image, your cut image, I would go over to the shapes, pick out a square because it has the sharp angles, the sharp corners. And then we're going to unlock the measurements, the proportions. And then for the width, we're going to put it as 8. And then height, we're going to put as 10.5. Now this is because if you wanted a 12 by 12 piece of paper, then your measurements would be 11.5 by 11.5. But because our paper is the standard 8.5 by 11, your actual cutting size is 8 by 10.5. So this just makes sure that you are in the boundaries of when you decide to go and cut. And then I find it's easier to change the color. And then if you right click, send to back, Now our main image, our cut image, is on top. It is white and you are able to see everything clearly. So what you can do is push it all the way up in the far left top corner, because everything is going to be to the ends. And then you can just click the bottom right little square, click and drag to make it bigger. If you wanted it a specific size, you can go to the top under size, but we are not. We just want to make it as big as possible. So as you can see, there's still a little bit of red, but that's okay. And then if we scroll down, we can see that there's still room for our bunny ears. And to get our bunny ears, we are going to go over to the left gray menu, click Images, now if you do not have Cricut access, you can click Free, you can scroll down, click Creator, and make sure it's under Cricut. And then you can scroll down and see what you need. But I have Cricut access, so we're going to remove the free, scroll down to a pair of ears that I like. I like these ones. I'm going to click, make sure that it is highlighted in green. There's the little icon down here. Add to canvas. And then we're just going to move these to the side a little bit. Now, over here under the layers menu, you see under 3D box, you have a little red exclamation point. That's just saying at the moment that the image is too large. That is because at this moment we have our operation as print then cut. We are going to be changing that later to cut basic, but we want to keep it where it is now so we are able to see the lines. So going back to the bunny ears, we're going to scale down just a little bit and then move them over to where we need them. Now, a little trick to help you. If you're trying to rotate, instead of trying with up here and doing the number of degrees that you want, you make sure that your arrow is pointed for rotation. Click, and then you'll see that you have a 0 degree. But a tip is if you press Shift and hold it, you are now clicking or snapping to certain degrees. So we want to make sure that it is all the way up and then release at the same time. So then we're going to place it, and as you can see, it's just a little too big. So still size smaller. And then at the bottom of the ears, we're going to make sure that it is overlapping this box just a little bit, because soon we're going to weld it together and we need all of this area to be connected together. But we also want to make sure that these interior of the ears are cut out. So over on the right, the layers menu, we see we have little bits. So we're going to match the pink of the inner ear, hold shift, and match with the same direction of the gray ear, and click. Now both of them are selected. Going to go down, click slice. And that is the same with the other side. Click once, hold shift, click the other side, let go. They are both selected. And you can see over here. Now slice. So we do not want this pink interior, so we're going to select and delete. There's also this gray piece, and that is from the original whole of the gray ear. We're going to select. If you do not want to select the delete button on your computer, you can always right click and delete from here. And do the same for the other side. So now we have open cuts for the inner ear, but the outer ear is still fine. And now if we select both ears, so click once, hold shift, click the other ear, and then if you still hold shift and click your box, all of it is selected. We are going to go down here, click combine, and then weld. And now your ears are connected to the rest of the box. If you click it, you can change it back to white. Now, if you wanted to use the scoring line, right now we are going to put the scoring lines, but if you wanted that extra help from before, so if we undo again, as like a guide right here, then I would suggest adding in your scoring lines now. But if you are fine with doing it by eye, then you can do it how I just showed you, with the welding first. So we're going to shapes and then line. Now we can't change the width of the line, and that's fine. We're going to be changing the length of the line. So we want this. Oh no. There we go. We want this, all four sides, and then these little tabs to have a score, just so it's easier to fold. So click, and you can stretch it, lengthen it, Now, it does not matter how long you make this scoring line, because if it is too long here, it's just going to be cut. So that's fine. And if it is on the outside at some point, like here, that's fine too, because you are not going to be using this scrap piece for this project. Now, to better see, we can zoom in. Scoot over. And if you still have trouble seeing this black line, then I would suggest going and welding the image first. And you can also use your keyboard arrows to scoot the line over so it would match. So what you're going to do now is duplicate and do the same for this side, for the right side. And if you don't like how big it is, again, you can always change the size of it. I just like to do a little bit extra so I know that it's not going to be shorted. Okay, so we're going to duplicate again. And how I showed you before, we're going to make sure that our arrow is in the rotate position. Click and hold, and then shift and hold so it snaps to the degrees. And instead of it being a vertical line, we're going to make it a horizontal line, a 90 degrees. And then release at the same time. And then we are going to do the top of the inner square. And now here, we're going to go all the way over for the entire length of our box, because we want to make sure that these tabs are in this scoring line. It's just easier instead of doing 1, 2, 3 different lines for both sides, the top and the bottom. So now we are going to duplicate and then move this down to the bottom. Okay. And then we're going to unselect, so just anywhere out in the grid. Zoom out just a little bit. And then we can weld. So click and select both of the bunny ears and none of the scoring lines. We don't want the scoring lines. We just want the 3D box. If that is too big of an issue, that's totally fine. You can always come over here to the layers menu and select the layers that you want. And then from there, combine and weld. That's okay that you can't see your scoring lines. That is just because over here on the right in the layers menu, your weld result is at the top. So you can either click and drag or right click and send backward. So you see how we now have another scoring line and the line is above. But we want to make sure that all 4 of our lines are above so we can see and make sure that they are in the correct spaces. And if you like it, at this point, our red square or whatever color that you chose. We're going to hide it, this little eye. We're going to click it, and it's gone because we already know that this cutout is going to be in the proper cutting dimensions. So if you click your weld result, and now from here, we're going to change the operation from print then cut to a cut basic. And now as you see here, we do not have the red exclamation point anymore. And then once you have your basic shape all filled out, we're going to images. And we're going to search for a bunny face. Now, if you do not have Cricut access, you can use the free or use the creator tab. But I'm going to do this one. And you want to keep it with a simple line design since we are embossing. So we don't want anything with a whole bunch of detail, or else your ink is going to dry too fast before you are done with the design. Then add to canvas. And then we want to keep these proportions, so the sizing is going to stay locked. We are just going to click and drag diagonally to make the face smaller and make sure that it is within the box border. And what I suggest you do is have your bunny face highlighted, plus you shift, hold, and click your weld result. And then we are going to align. We are going to center horizontally. So now your face is centered throughout. And then once you are done, you're going to make sure that instead of the operation as a basic cut, you're going to have it as a pen. Now, with the eyes and the nose being open, that's fine, because with your pen it is going to be a little bit thicker, or you can always add in, fill in afterwards. I'm okay with keeping it as a fine point, but if you would like to, you can have it as a marker. And it does not matter what color, you can have it as a black. But I'm going to keep it as a fine point, black. And then when you are done with that, you are going to take your bunny face and also your attachment with all of your lines and your weld result. You're going to shift, hold, so everything is selected, and attach that. Okay, since we have everything attached, we are going to actually hide your bunny face at the moment. And this is because Cricut would draw the face first, and then it would cut, and by the time you were done cutting, your ink is probably going to be too dry in order for the powder to stick on your paper. So we are going to cut out and score the shape first. So we're going over to Make It. And if you would like to keep it as a 12 by 12 on here, that is totally fine. Or if you would like to change it as an 8.5 by 11 as a letter, just to double check that you are in the parameters for that size paper, you can do that as well. I'm going to continue. And then we're going to make sure that the machine is connected. You can either have it as a Bluetooth connection or by USB. And if you are using a Bluetooth connection on your Cricut machine, your power button should be blue. And then depending on what type of paper or material that you are using, I am using a medium cardstock. Pressure, again, that depends on your machine and how old it is and the blade use. I am fine with using a default, but you could also use more or less. Load tools and materials. So Cricut automatically assumes that you're using a scoring wheel. I'm using the scoring stylus, so I would have to edit tools and change the wheel to the stylus. And I'm using the fine point blade, so that stays the same. And apply. And then over here on your Cricut, you're going to make sure that your stylus is in the pen slot. There should be a little arrow, and you wait till the click. And then you have your fine point blade. That's going to be in slot B. Open it up, slide it in, close the clamp. So that is all set up. Now for your mat. If you have a older mat or it is well used, then we are going to be using the Brayer tool. To push down our paper. So make sure that your paper is hitting the edge. And we use a brayer because whenever you are using multiple pieces of paper and have used it for a long time, your mat isn't as sticky, but mats are pretty expensive nowadays, so we want to keep using it as much as possible, hence what the brayer is for. And it keeps everything flat, so it's even consistency. So then when we are ready, put the mat in the slot. There should be a blinking arrow. And now your mat is ready. So if we go back over to Cricut, you can do fast mode, but I suggest not. But we are all ready. Our tools and materials are good. Our cardstock and the pressure is good. So now that we're all ready on this side, we're going back over to here, and we were pressing the blinking C. Or if you have the Cricut Maker 3, it should be a play button. design space should be showing this. But right now it is scoring. And now it's cutting. And now that it is done cutting and scoring, we can remove the mat. And we're going to make sure that all of the lines are aligned. And it looks good. So we are going to remove. And to best help without warping your paper is to curl your mat. It doesn't hurt the mat, so you're fine. We're going to place it back up here in the slot. Remove this excess paper. And we're going to see that all the scoring lines are aligned, or if we had to remake it and adjust. These are fine. So bring back the mat, remove the inner bunny ear or whatever excess paper is on there. And now we are going to align this paper to best help when we use our marker. So I like to rotate your mat, and then we're placing this side up. So what you're going to do is you're going to make sure that the edge is on the 1 inch line, and the same for this top part is going to be on the 1 inch line. Because when we go later, make sure that it is pressed down and brayer it so it is stuck to the mat completely. And then now we are going to use a dryer sheet. And with a medium pressure, we're going to rub this top box. This is to help make sure that your powder is not going to stick to your paper. Once that is done, we're going to release the clamp A, take out your scoring stylus, and then we are going to insert your pen, your embossed pen. Now this only works with the Ranger Tim Holtz embossed pen, and only on the Maker or Maker 3. I'm going to push it down. It's not going to actually click, but you're going to feel it push into place. and then close the clamp. And now what we are going to do is go back to Cricut. We are done with this. Now we are going to add in our bunny face. And we are going to keep your weld result, your cutout, and your lines. Actually, you can remove your scoring lines so it doesn't add that step. And then make it. Now on here, keep it as a 12 by 12 piece of paper, even though there is no 12 by 12 on your mat. That is fine. You're going to click your image, and then you're going to place it on the 1 inch by 1 inch. And that looks pretty good. So we are going to continue. Then I am using a medium cardstock. If you are using the marker when it was up here to change it from pen to marker, I would suggest either using a less or default. I'm using the pen, so I'm just doing a default. And right here it says black 0.4 pen, but that's fine. So now we're going to insert the paper, the mat. And then back into Cricut, I'm going to click fast mode. So here we are all ready. Press the blinking C or play button. Now to stop it from cutting, you're going to wait, and right there when it pauses, you can press the arrow to release the mat. And as you can see, there's a little bit of shiny. That is your image, and because we have limited time, put that up here. And now this is where your filter comes in. Place it under your cardstock with your image ink. Have your powder. And then at a sharp angle, you're going to just tap the powder out to make sure that it is all covered. And what you can also do is tap your paper And if there are still some stragglers of powder that you do not want on, you can use your brush and wipe them away. And this is why you want a thinner detailed brush, so you can get into the little crevices and not have a messed up image. Now, if you wanted your eyes and your nose to be filled in before you put on the powder, would have been a perfect time to do that. But I want the eyes open. Move this to the side because we do not want the heat to touch this. And then use your heat gun. Turn it on. If it's plugged in, turn it on. Wait a few moments to make sure that it is heat up. And then very slowly and from far enough away, because if you do it too close, your paper is going to warp. And you will see that the powder starts to melt, and it'll be like a little bit bumpy. So keep your heat on just a little bit longer to make sure that it is all smooth. Off, and make sure it has a stand, or you have a stand for it, so the tip does not get onto anything plastic or anything that would melt or burn. And there's your little face. So from here, we're going to flip it over. And then lightly press it down, and do it all. Lightly press. Lightly press. Lightly press. And lightly press. So now from here, if these boxes are going to be days later that are handed to them, I would suggest using glue or be transported in rough conditions, especially for little children. Use glue. But if they're going to be used pretty soon, tape will suffice. So I'm going to tape the inside of these tabs. And then fold them out just a little bit. So then when they are folded up, you can now have the sides together. And there we go. We have our little bunny box. Well, thank you. And for cleanup, move the box to the side. We have our powder. And then we still have some remaining powder. And this is what's nice about the coffee filter, is you can just pour it back. And then you can reuse both the powder and the coffee filter. Make sure the lid is on tight so nothing spills. This is safe, it's not hot anymore. Shut down your Cricut. And that's that. Thank you for joining me, and have fun crafting.